It seems like everybody's moving to Dallas, Texas. If you go online, you look at the best places to live, Dallas and a lot of the surrounding suburbs end up on the top of almost every single list that you look at. But despite so many people saying that Dallas, Texas is one of the best places to live, there's still a lot of people that are moving away and deciding not to live in Dallas. And that's what we're gonna talk about today. We're gonna break apart the 9 reasons that people are leaving Dallas, Texas, and there's several that you've probably never heard before that you need to listen before moving to Dallas, Texas. My name is Michael Caraway. I'm a realtor here in the DFW Metro, and we need to get to this list right now. So the first and the most obvious reason that people are leaving Dallas, Texas is the extreme weather. Now, a lot of people think I'm talking about just heat, but there is more than that, and we're gonna get to that here in a second. But let's talk about heat. Heat is one of those things that you kind of expect going into living in Texas, but how bad is it actually? Well, a lot of people have never experienced anything like Texas before. They don't really know how hot it is, and it is hot here during the summer. Typically June through September, you're gonna get hotter weather here in Dallas, Texas. You know, you can expect anywhere between 90 degrees up to above 100 degrees during that period of June to September. It's not necessarily a humid heat, and it's not necessarily a super dry either. It's kind of that mild climate. So a lot of people still think it feels humid if they've lived in a place like Colorado, for example, where it's really dry heat. Kind of like myself, my wife and I lived in Denver, Colorado, and so we've experienced that dry heat. And Texas does feel a little bit more humid, but we also grew up in Iowa where it is extremely humid, and Dallas, Texas is not as humid as a place like Iowa or a lot of the other Midwest or places like Florida. It's just not as humid, even as like Houston, Texas, for example. So it is hot in Dallas, Texas, just not as hot as some of those more humid climates. But despite that, people still are leaving Dallas, Texas because of the heat. They want to go to a cooler climate. They don't want to have to worry about the extreme temperatures in the summer. They just want to get out into a more mild climate. Now, Dallas, Texas also experiences somewhat of a winter as well. You know, people don't really realize that about Dallas. It's not just hot year round. You do get into lower temperatures during the winter months. Right now, we're in January. We've been hovering in highs around 50s to 60s with lows as low as 30 degrees. But here in about a week or so, we're expected to have a high of about 30 degrees for a period of about 4 or 5 days. And that's kind of the mixture that you see in the winter. You'll have, you know, a stretch of 2 weeks where you get into the 60s in the winter, and then you'll have a few days where you're gonna get down into the 30s or 40s. And then it'll heat back up again. So it never gets necessarily super cold for a long time in Dallas, but it definitely has its chunks of time where it is a little bit colder. And you do get a little bit of snow every once in a while, you know, maybe like 1 to 2 times a year. It's pretty minimal for the most part. And the whole city shuts down. It's kind of funny from my perspective, being from the Midwest and also living in Colorado. People here in Texas just don't know how to handle snow. So you just gotta go into this whole process knowing that when it does snow, the whole city kind of just shuts down for a few days. And some other weather considerations that people end up leaving for are the hail. It hails all the time, especially in certain areas around the DFW Metro. So you just gotta look out for that. And then every once in a while you do get tornadoes around here, but honestly, it just doesn't happen that often. And the places that it does happen is typically a little bit more in rural areas instead of your traditional suburbia or in actual downtown Dallas, for example. A lot of people are just looking for a little bit more of a mild climate. They're done with the heat, they're done with the hail, they're done with the storms. They just wanna go to somewhere where they don't have to worry about weather at all. It's 70 degrees year round, all that kind of stuff, and Dallas just is not gonna ever give them that. The second reason that people are moving away from Dallas, Texas is that they just moved to the wrong spot and got a bad taste of Dallas. So one of the most important things when you're moving to a new city is finding the right place. If you don't move to the right place, you're just not going to enjoy the city. The DFW Metro has so many different kinds of living, different kind of suburbs, different neighborhoods within Dallas proper. And if you move to the wrong spot, you're not gonna be a happy person. For example, when my wife and I moved here, we moved to a certain suburb here in the DFW Metro, and while it was a good suburb for a lot of people, it just wasn't a good fit for us. And so as time went on, we got to know the Metro a little bit more. We ended up finding a better place that fit us, and we've had a way different experience living in our new place compared to our last place. And so it's just really important to find that place right from the get-go. You don't need to make the mistake that we did. You know, we could have very well moved to a different city altogether. You know, for example, there are a lot of new construction neighborhoods popping up all over the place, and they are beautiful. They've got amazing amenities, beautiful, large, affordable homes, and they just look like amazing places to live. And when you're out of state, and you see these amazing homes for the prices that they're listed at, you think it's a no-brainer. And so a lot of people end up buying those homes, moving in, and then realizing after a few months that, hey, I shouldn't have bought here, because even though I get a great neighborhood, I'm 30 minutes away from all the things I like to do. Or vice versa, maybe you decided to buy right in the middle of the action in one of the top suburbs, and then you realize that you need a little bit more space and you should have moved a little bit further out. You know, this happens literally all the time. When you don't engage the right people when you make your move, you don't do your proper research, you could end up in the wrong spot and want to move away from Dallas altogether. You know, that's why you reach out to a team like us. You know, we're able to get on a Zoom call, ask you a few questions, get to know you a little bit more, and then help you narrow in on the right place to buy a home, whether that's in the suburbs, maybe it's in a rural part of the DFW metro, or maybe you're actually looking at Dallas proper. We're able to ask those questions and give you tailored advice on where you should look, so you don't have to make the mistake that I did in the past, which is moving to the wrong place. If you want some assistance on figuring out where that right place is for you, then definitely reach out. Let's schedule a Zoom call and get you in the right spot. The third reason that people are moving away from the DFW metro is that they're just getting priced out. The DFW metro used to be one of the most affordable places to move to. That's initially what kind of spurred a lot of this development that's going on here, along with jobs, obviously. It just used to be a really cheap place to live, where you could get this really beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood for dirt cheap. That's why a lot of people that were in California, for example, or Seattle or Boston, they see the home prices out there, and then they look at the Dallas, Texas area, and they're like, oh my gosh, for the same price that I could buy a little 1,400 square foot home here in Seattle, I can get a 3,500 square foot brand new build in Texas. And while Dallas is still relatively affordable, it's becoming less and less affordable as time goes on and more people move here. And unfortunately, when that happens, a lot of people get priced out of the market, and they're forced to either rent or move out of the DFW metro altogether. And it's not just prices that are making Dallas, Texas an unaffordable place for people to live. You also have rapidly rising insurance rates because of all of the natural disasters that have happened in the state of Texas, as well as climbing property taxes as well. This is obviously not affecting a lot of people that are looking to make the move from other states to Texas. It's more affecting the people that have already lived here for their entire life, or have lived here for several years. They're not comfortable paying the prices that they are right now. They don't want to pay the higher tax rates. They don't want to pay the higher insurance, so they're forced to look in other places. So another reason that people are moving away from the DFW metro is that they're just afraid of all the change that's going on around here. You know, when you set eyes on the DFW metro, you'll see there's a lot of physical change going on. There's a lot of buildings going up, a lot of road construction, just a lot of new developments popping up everywhere. And so physically, the DFW metro is changing, and some people aren't okay with that. But specifically what I'm speaking about that a lot of people are leaving for is the fear of political change here in the DFW metro, as well as a cultural change. Just calling it how it is, a lot of native Texans are typically very conservative. And a lot of the people that are moving into the state of Texas right now are from states that are typically a little bit more liberal and a little bit more diverse. And so people that have lived here their entire lives are afraid that, you know, with all these people moving in, it's going to completely destroy the political climate, and with all the cultural changes, it's just going to make Dallas completely different. And some people are just stuck on their high horse, and they're not willing to go through all that and see what the change actually comes out to be. And they're just trying to get out of town. Now, just because that's why people are leaving does not mean it's actually true. Definitely do your own research and form your own opinion on that. So another reason that a lot of people end up moving away from the DFW metro is lack of nature. I'm gonna be honest, if I ever moved away from the DFW metro, it'd probably be for this reason alone. I grew up in Iowa, and in Iowa, we were constantly out in the woods, exploring nature, and like I said before, my wife and I lived out in the Denver, Colorado area, so we were in the mountains hiking, snowboarding, riding bikes, all that kind of stuff all the time. We just liked being out in nature. And both Iowa and Colorado had obviously hills or mountains. It wasn't flat. Well, since moving to the DFW metro, it's been completely different. The DFW metro is very flat. There's very little topography in the entire DFW metro. You find the little pockets where you get a little bit more. You don't have a lot of mature trees, especially up in the suburbs, the north suburbs. When you're getting into like the newer construction communities, typically don't get that mature vegetation. Not a lot of places to hike and bike and all that kind of stuff around here. So you just don't get the opportunities for outdoor recreation or just sitting out in nature very much, compared to a place like Colorado or even around here like Oklahoma or Arkansas. But I will say that since living here, we have really invested a lot of time into trying to find the right places to get out into nature, and there are opportunities around here. In fact, almost every single week I'm going out and doing hikes and getting near water and getting outside as much as I possibly can. So there's opportunities to get out into nature here in the DFW Metro. You just really have to look for it. But if you're looking for an outdoor haven, you want the opportunity to be able to kayak all the time, whitewater raft, go mountain biking, just all that kind of stuff, the DFW Metro may not be a good fit for you, and that's what a lot of people are finding, and that's why they're leaving the DFW Metro. Now, another reason that people are leaving Dallas, Texas is that it's just too busy for them. And Dallas, Texas has always been pretty big, but if you grew up here, if you look at how big it is now, it'd be pretty overwhelming. There's so much growth that has happened over the past 20 years here in the Dallas, Texas area that it's just crazy to me. It's seeing all of what's been done in just that short amount of time. And if you've been here any significant amount of time, you've seen that shift happen, and it's a completely different lifestyle now. And so a lot of people just aren't comfortable with that fast-paced environment. They're not comfortable with constantly having traffic. They're not comfortable with all the new projects that are going on. They just want that smaller town feel, and the DFW Metro in Dallas, Texas specifically is just never gonna be that for them. And so that's why they're leaving. So they're gonna have to get pretty far out away from Dallas or into a completely different area altogether. Another reason that people move away from Dallas, Texas is that they want more land. They want a little bit more breathing room. They want more than just a quarter-acre lot or even less, like a lot of these new construction communities are building. They want some more land, whether that be a full acre or they actually want to buy some decent amount of land, like 80 acres or so. They're just not going to find a lot of opportunities at an affordable price here in the DFW Metro. So you're going to have to look, on the very outskirts of the DFW Metro. There definitely is some more opportunities there. And some people are moving away just a little bit further out of the city to be able to buy some more land. But a lot of people are looking in other states altogether, and that's why you're seeing a lot of growth in some of these surrounding states around Texas, is because of that convenience to be able to buy a little bit more land for a lesser price. Another reason that people move away from Dallas, Texas is the public transportation. The public transportation in Dallas is pretty mediocre, especially if you're living out in the suburbs. Now, downtown Dallas definitely has some more opportunities. You've got a good bus system, you've got the DART system, but it's just not super great once you get outside of Dallas proper. A lot of people moving in here are looking into the suburbs when they're moving here, and there's no opportunities necessarily for public transportation, or very few opportunities depending on where you're relocating to. So when you get here and you realize that, it can be frustrating for a lot of people because they don't want to have to drive a car everywhere. And so that's why a lot of people kind of get disappointed when they do make the move here and realize there's just no infrastructure built out for public transportation, and they ended up moving to a different city that has a little bit more infrastructure for the lifestyle that they want to live. Another reason that I hear people moving away from Dallas, Texas is that it's just becoming too much crime for them. Now, I want to preface this by saying that this completely depends on what area of Dallas you're looking at, and honestly, a lot of these people's opinions are just coming from them and no data necessarily. A lot of the different communities around here actually show declining rates of crime, but a lot of people do not have that same experience necessarily. There is some validity to this. When you have a rising population, you're going to see more cases of crime appear. But really, from my perspective, the more important number to look at is the crime rate, and seeing whether the rate of crime has increased along with the population or if it stayed relatively steady. And so, again, that varies by the area in town. And I definitely would not say it's a blanket statement around the entire DFW Metro. So definitely do your research and see, where you're looking, if the crime rate is something you're comfortable with or not. But a lot of people are finding that the places that they're moving from have far significant more crime compared to the DFW Metro. But again, that varies depending on where you're looking at. Now, if you're considering a move to the DFW Metro, then you'd probably find this video helpful on why I moved from Colorado to Dallas, Texas. And if you're needing some help making the move here and finding the right house for you, then definitely reach out to me and my team. We would be honored to help you make the move to the DFW Metro.